So our issue was Burmese pythons invading the Florida Everglades.
The Burmese python problem, the big issue with them is that they're a big invasive species and they originate from the Southeast Asia. So the big problem with that is that they're bringing diseases that humans aren't used to here. And they're like literally consuming half of the United States. And in the Florida Everglades, they have like basically completely taken over that area.
This affects us because the Florida is a big place where people go for vacation, and the Everglades is a national park, so it's also a tourist attraction. And they're also making the outdoors dangerous for kids because they're not just. A lot of people live in Florida around Florida because it's a popular place. It's known as West Georgia. Just kidding.
For food and capabilities, the Burmese pythons usually eat small rodents or birds, but they have been known to consume small deer and small children, which makes them a big danger. And they even eat alligators, which really shows you how dangerous they are.
It affects biodiversity because they eat native species and they eat native species and they affect food webs because they mainly focus on small rodents, which snakes eat, and then I'm messing this up, aren't I? They affect ecosystem services because they eat birds. They eat birds, and then birds also eat bees, and bees pollinate flowers, so that affects plants. Got you there.
When we were creating our solutions, we ran into a lot of trial and error. One of our first solutions that we found was called radiotelemetry, which is basically where you put a tracking device almost on the snake, which would be the Burmese python, and it basically follows the snake around and tracks where they go and where they're where they get their food from and where they're breeding at. But the biggest problem of this was that we found out that it only tracks the snakes. It doesn't help it doesn't help the ecosystem or the environment at all. Our second solution was hunting, and we were going to use radiotelemetry to track the Burmese python and let hunters, like maybe once a month, go out, shoot as many Burmese pythons as they can to keep the population under control, and hopefully that would later lead to fixing the problem or keeping it under control. The biggest problem we ran into this was that there wasn't a benefit for the hunters. There wasn't anything in it for them, so that solution wouldn't be very popular.
We also, because then our third solution would be to capture them and put them in an enclosure, but we found out that there were too many of them to capture and to put into like a zoo or something. And even if we did, they would have eventually killed each other in the enclosure because it was such a confined space and they weren't used to it because they're spacious species. And then we thought because they originate from Southeast Asia, we thought we could capture them and send them back to Asia. But, I mean, they were too dangerous to catch, and then they would have a negative effect on Asia's ecosystem. So we were solving one problem and creating the same problem in a different space.
The final solution we rested on was using almost a combination of all the solutions that we thought of. We were going to use radiotelemetry to track the snakes and where they're at. Then we were going to use the hunters to keep the population under control. But we modified that a little bit, and so the hunters had something in it for them, we thought of maybe we could have a sponsor, and the hunting would almost be like a competition. Sorry. And the sponsor would give you a gift card or any other prize if you killed the most Burmese pythons. And so with the solution, we fixed the population under control of the Burmese pythons, and now the hunters are getting a real benefit from their hunting.
So benefits from the solution, so for ecosystem benefits, you're going to restore the ecosystem. So, eventually the ecosystem would be back to the way it was before, and it would be safer again, and then they wouldn't be damaging the Everglades anymore, so people wouldn't have to fear them anymore. And then human benefits, it was if you killed the most pythons, you got a prize, and then you're restoring your home, and you could eat them. We found a source that said they're edible, so you get to kill them and then eat them, and you're getting a prize anyway. So.
Some fun facts is, like Delaney said, after you eat the snake, or after you capture and kill the snakes, you can eat them. From our source, it said that the Burmese python are edible and they taste like chicken. This would also help starvation rates of people in that area, because it's an easy way to get food without having to buy it, really.
Isn't that it?
I think so, yeah. So we're at lunch